What is going on, YouTube people? Today, we are going to break down the little discussion that one Michael Rubin had at a hobby shop this past weekend for Topps Rip Night. American Legion was the hobby shop in New York. One of his stops across his little escapade. I think he went to quite a few stores on Saturday for Hobby Rip Night. And they recorded some video of him coming in. He was there for about a half an hour. And at the very top of that, he kind of did like a quick little Q&A. I don't know if it was planned or not. But someone in the crowd asked him a question about basically, and I'm going to play the full clip. It's about 3 minutes long, but I'll play the full thing in its entirety for you. But the gist of it is, with breakers kind of taking things over, where does that leave collectors in all this? The guy that just, or girl that just wants to walk in and buy a jumbo box of Topps Series 1 and rip it on release week with the increase in pricing, print run, all the nonsense. And Rubin dances for sure. He is a professional. He is not going to say something too stupid. But there were, in my opinion, one interesting piece of data that we really did not know before this, and then a little nugget that I think we kind of already knew, but it was interesting to actually hear the supreme leader of Fanatics say it out loud. So, I'm going to play the clip. About 3 minutes long. The audio is pretty decent on it. It's a little bit hard to hear in some parts, but it's not too terribly bad. And then we'll come back and talk about those two things. We'll see if you pick up on the two things that I did.
I got a question for you, Michael, if you can help. We were just actually talking about this a second ago. How does Topps Fanatics think that they can help the consumer, the average consumer, still be able to get cards without the breakers, gobbling up on cards? So, as a Topps fan, I was trying to rip Hobby, the new hobbies that came out. But I'm watching breakers on the night of, when they're about to rip them, they're putting all the hits, the biggest hits possible. And it's like, well, the cards that I was looking to chase, I can't chase anymore because somebody already got them. And they're the breakers. Yeah. Like, how can a fan actually start to get, some of these cards in their hands without the breakers?
So first, a phenomenal question. Okay, make sure everyone heard the question. Like, how does you guys have been in business for 32 years. How does the hobby shop that's been here for 32 years, the collector, it sounds like you've been a collector for a really long period of time. How do you properly exist with breakers that have become so big and prominent? First of all, today, if you look at our business, just like real numbers, about 20% of what we sell goes through like big retailers like a Target or Walmart. About 40% goes through hobby shops, like my family here, the Rubins, and about 40% goes through breakers. So it's one of the things that, and we know people believe that like cards are stacked for breakers or things like that. So that question, you see it on social media all the time. We actually brought an auditor in. We took the same auditor that like audits our financial statements and said, hey, first of all, validate this. Make sure you prove, because people have a right to know and understand. The same way that the NBA's draft process is audited. To make sure cards are going where they say they are. So that was kind of more of a trust thing. But I think we believe like controlling pricing so that things are affordable is really, really important. And I think that's almost part of the question.
And that is kind of part of the question, right? Because as a consumer, with the buyers eating up so much product, the prices are going to be the prices. The more you sell, the more you're going to keep charging what you're going to charge. Well, right? With them buying up so many boxes compared to us, they're pricing me out. Because now the prices keep going up because the boxes keep selling off the shelf, which is they're consuming. So now it puts in a position where like, all right, I can't get it this week. I'm gonna have to wait maybe a couple of weeks to get the box.
Yeah. So let me say a couple of things. We believe all three areas are super important. So like we believe the customer that goes to Target or Walmart. I didn't see you dropping that. We believe the customer goes to Target or Walmart, really important to us. We want to service that customer who wants that entry-level product. We believe that people, what you guys have done for 32 years, like, you're the heartbeat of what we do, okay?
And we love it.
Right,
We love
right.
doing
And we
it.
believe breakers are also, they're good for like the marketing and the excitement of the business. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we have product for each area and make sure that we're actually thinking about how we can get prices lower. The problem is, I'll tell you the problem, and this, I think everyone will find this super interesting.
I think people really
Yeah, and then we'll start ripping.
Yeah.
I think that the problem is, if you keep making better products, right? Like, what we heard from collectors is they hate redemptions. Okay, we've reduced the redemptions by 98%. Like, we had there used to be hundreds of thousands of redemptions. We have 10,000 redemptions today. Okay, people used to say they hate on card or they hate sticker orders. Okay, so many more of our orders are now on card. Then people are like, hey, we want jaded orders, we want Victor orders. So you go out and you create the debut patch, you create all these things to create a lot of energy. Then the problem is that makes the prices go up because there's more demand. But then if you make more cards, people aren't happy. So you're trying to balance, so it's a delicate thing. But what I can say to you is, we believe keeping the hobby accessible is really important, because if we don't, then these guys won't be able to do what they do, and we won't be able to do it. So we care a lot. We've even thought about do we have like a map pricing? We've made certain retailers keep, like Walmart, Target, keep their prices there and not raise their prices. So it's something we're very focused on.
Thank you guys for thinking of the consumer. We appreciate it. So thank you guys, and the fact that
I appreciate the question. It's a great question.
And we're back. Great question by that person. I don't know who it was that asked it, but props to him for asking the question. So, the two big takeaways for me. The interesting piece of data was the 20-40-40 thing that he mentioned. 20% of product goes to retail, 40% goes to LCSs, 40% goes to breakers. Now, what he did not include there, and maybe this is just lumped in with retail, I would also be curious to know what Topps sells direct, Topps/Fanatics, because on release days, you could go on, purchase product, you can go on Fanatics sometimes and do product drops, you could do pre-orders. There's usually not a ton of quantity, but there is usually some available. I'm sure it's a small percentage, and maybe that just gets lumped in with big box retail. I don't know. Maybe they're considering themselves an LCS. Regardless, I don't think it's a huge percentage, so I don't think it moves the needle that much. So 20% of the product goes to big box retails, Walmart's, Targets. 40% goes to your local hobby shop, and 40% goes to breakers. I would argue the number that goes to breakers is higher than 40%. I think it's 40% of what they're shipping out the door. But how many hobby shops also either A, even if they're not part of the Fanatics breaking program, they may break the product themselves on their own, even if they're not set up as a Fanatics breaker. Because for those that don't know, Fanatics and Topps have two different accounts. There is a traditional direct account for hobby shops, and then there is a basically I'm a breaker account. And I don't know the specific details of everything behind the scenes, but that's basically the gist of it. And in some cases, I think people can have both. If you're a shop and you're also breaking, I think you can have both contracts in place. I don't know that for sure, but regardless, that's kind of the way things are divvied up. My point here is, I would be willing to bet a decent percentage of the product that is going direct to LCSs, some of that is getting siphoned off to breakers. Either the shop's breaking it themselves, or the shop might be selling it to breakers. Maybe it's on the up and up, maybe it's on a little behind the scenes, because Topps does want to track where product is going. They were very aggressive about kind of putting the breaks down on DealerNet a while back, which was a website that dealers would sell to other, basically shops would sell to other shops and other dealers to move product around. They didn't like that because they wanted you to go direct through them. But I am sure some percentage of that product going to LCSs is also going to breakers. But for the purposes of this, we'll take them at his face value. 40% goes to breakers, 40 shops, 20 retail. That number, when he threw that out, really did not surprise me. If anything, I thought breaking would be slightly higher. I think one thing to keep in mind here, and I heard Mike and Jesse talk about this on Sports Cards Nonsense the other day, that there are way more breakers now, so the product gets diluted across a larger number of people. And there's also a lot of hobby shops, and that product gets spread out through a lot of different hobby shops. So I could see a more even split between those two, but like I said, I have a feeling some of that LCS product is ending up in breaks. So that was the more factual nugget if you want to take him at face value. The note, the little interesting thing that was curious to hear come out of one of their mouths was when he was talking about breakers and specifically cited their importance to basically marketing. That breakers drive hype and drive engagement, it's basically free advertising. It's paid advertising, except you're paying for it. You're buying it. This is great. You and I are buying into a break with the breaker. They're creating the viral moment, and that's good marketing for Topps and Fanatics. Gotta love it. Got to love it. What a system. What a system. And that's why there's two reasons that breaking is so important to them. One, they move a ton of product. And two, they create those genuine marketing moments. A hit is pulled. Everyone's excited. People are screaming. Oh my goodness. The reel goes viral on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts. The YouTube video goes viral. Everyone's talking, oh, did you see so-and-so hit this? Did you see so-and-so hit that? And it gets a ton of views, and everyone freaks out, and it's all over social, and it gets spread all over hell. They love that. They absolutely love that. The other thing, I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. The breakers sell a ton of product, and they're also able to charge more for it. When you could take a box that's supposed to sell for, let's say, $200, and you microtransact it up, and you could sell it for $300 or $250 or $275, because everyone's buying a smaller chunk, so it seems like it's cheaper even though it's not. That allows product to move at higher prices. And when they can't get enough through direct distribution, then they go on the secondary market and buy from there. And what does that do? Drive prices up even higher. And then everyone gets accustomed to paying more for hobby boxes, and then that allows them to charge more. The breakers buy up all the supply, or a decent chunk of the supply, and it drives the prices up. Look at what happens when Bowman Sapphire drops on release. Or, I mean, you see it on the screen there, X-Men 97. Cases sold out in 0.2 seconds when those went up for sale, because breakers gobbled them all up before a general public could even get to them. They control the supply. The supply is now limited because breakers are breaking so much of it, and it drives the prices up. And I think the other thing with those percentages, to circle back to that, the 20, 40, 40, let's be honest, the 20% that's going to retail isn't the product that most people are concerned about. Most people, Walmart and Target aren't getting jumbo boxes of Topps Chrome Update. They're getting mega boxes. So when you break it down the hobby exclusive product, that would be the real question. What is the split of hobby exclusive product? Jumbo boxes of Topps Series 1, what percentage went to breakers and what percentage went to shops? Was it 50-50? Or did breakers get a little bit more? Because he just said product. So that includes everything. And retail hobby shops get blasters and megas and hangers and all the other stuff. So I would be very curious to know what the split is on hobby specific product. Jumbo boxes of Topps Chrome Update. What was the split between shops and breakers? My gut tells me it would not be 50-50. It would be skewed towards the breakers, but he's just giving overall product mix, including everything. That's my guess, because shops get some retail stuff too, so that dilutes that number down a little bit. And listen, I'm no fan of breaking. I've never bought into one. I have no plans to buy into one. But if you choose to participate in the modern hobby, it is something you have to contend with. Whether you like it or not, they are there, they exist, and spoilers, they ain't going nowhere. So you either got to learn to adapt or just realize that you might get priced out of certain products. Or better yet, just don't rip packs at all anymore and just buy the singles that you want. Now, I get it. That's not fun. I 100% get it. I would much rather rip a jumbo box of Top Series 1, for example, just to go back to that, than buy singles from Top Series 1. Because there's really not a lot of singles I actually want from Top Series 1. Sure, would I like a John Kenzie Noel Gold Mirror? Absolutely. Few other select cards for my PC? Sure. But the odds of actually hitting those are slim to none. Let's be honest. When I buy a box of Jumbo Series 1 or whatever product, insert whatever product that you want, 90% of the time, you're buying the lottery ticket. And that, I'm speaking from my perspective. You all might be different. There's people that generally want to rip or genuinely want to rip Series 1 and, put together a set or Topps Chrome, insert whatever product you want. There are people that genuinely want to rip that product as a collector experience. For me, there's just not that many cards I want out of it, so 9 times out of 10, I'm just playing the scratch-off game with it. I prefer to control that process myself. I want to buy the box. I want the excitement of the box coming in the mail or walking out of the show with it or the shop and bringing it home and sitting down at my desk and getting my penny sleeves ready and the whole 9 yards. That's what I want for my box opening experience. Now, I'll use X-Men 97 as an example again. That's a different story. I'm interested in the actual cards themselves. I want to probably put a set together. I probably want to put insert sets together of X-Men 97. So my thought process on ripping that is going to be a little bit different. But if you think breaking's going away, it's not. As much as I would love it to, it's not happening. It's just not. If anything, it's going to keep becoming more and more important in the modern day hobby. And when I say important, I'm taking that as from the company's perspective. From Topps and Fanatics perspective, they are going to keep pushing breaking for the reasons that we discussed. It's great marketing. They're able to upcharge the product a little bit more, even if it's just like fractions, or even if it's just like 10, 15, 20%, in some cases a lot more. But they could charge more for the product, and they move a ton of product, and they move it fast. And it's all about those little buzz viral moments that they create to go along with it. As always, curious for your thoughts and comments down below. Once again, shout out to the person that asked the question. Shout out to Rubin for answering it. Did he politically answer it? Yes, but he answered it. I'll give the guy a little bit of credit for actually fielding the question and then giving some semblance of an answer. So if you ever want to come on the channel, Rubin, open invitation. I would love to ask you some questions about the business and Topps, the business of Topps and Fanatics, and ask you questions probably very similar to that in addition to a few others. That's all I got. Catch you boys and girls on the next one. Peace.